Welcome back to another episode of Sky U Pod. We got Max, Shuddy, and myself. Fellas, how you doing?
Tremendous. How are you both?
Doing good. Doing good. Max?
Doing all right. Getting over a little sickness. Sounds like you are too, Kurt. Seems like everyone's been getting
Yeah.
sick this time of year. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I'm sick of something, and we'll get to it in a second. We got a good show for you today, fellas. Thanks for tuning in. As you know, we are Sky U Pod 1 on Twitter. You're listening to Sky U Pod. We are available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, basically any podcast platform, you name it. Feel free to like and subscribe and comment, share it, you know, all that good stuff that helps us get found. We are brought to you by Big Banter Sports, your Gopher football podcast for Big Banter Sports, but feel free to look Big Banter up and they can provide you with knowledge on any team you're looking for. So check them out. Good group of guys, good content. Yeah. Okay, fellas, first item on the docket. Couple things have happened since we've last posted an episode, but to me, the biggest one, Gophers announced that there is no spring game this year, which, first reaction I thought was pretty odd, but I want your guys' opinions first. So, Spencer, we'll start with you. What is your reaction to the Gophers announcing no spring game? And then, is it a big deal to you? Do you care? What are just your thoughts on it?
I thought about this a little bit. At first, I was like, I don't like this. It's a spring football game. It kind of gets you excited for the upcoming season. It gives the fans a little insight on what's cooking up, what athletes they have, who's going to be dynamic and a possible playmaker during the season. And then I thought, in recent years, especially, um, our spring game has been like rained out, snowed out, too cold, whatever it is, and they've just had their own little thing, inside where the public generally doesn't go. They just kind of do their own thing. So in that respect, I kind of understand. The only thing is, we have a new quarterback, we have a little bit of new personnel, new coaches. It'd be good to kind of see a game time situation, with all of these pieces, just kind of coming in as one, during a spring game or in a game type situation. Obviously, it's not the same as a real, football game, but I mean, it's fast tempo. You're going full speed. It's something. But I guess ultimately, I'm not too bummed about it. Um, from a fan perspective, let's go for football. I'd love to see it. But in terms of, just pure football, I guess I'm indifferent.
Yeah. Max, what about you?
Yeah, it doesn't really bother me too much. And it's not, as a fan, you don't really learn a whole lot. It's fun to watch and it's cool to see some of the new faces take the field sometimes. But, um, you know, from a, from a coaching perspective, you kind of think like, is it just because we have so many new pieces, especially at the quarterback position, that they either maybe a combination of they just don't want to show too much too early and just getting them acclimated with the new team, the new, all the new playbook, the verbiage, just how practices work. Are they just trying to utilize more of that springtime for just practicing and watching film and all those sorts of things where they don't have to worry about scheduling the whole spring game? And then dealing with things like weather and moving it inside and all that. That seems to usually happen to us. But yeah, overall, it's kind of nothing. I'd be curious to hear more just out of curiosity why PJ made the decision, but I'm sure he'll never actually say.
Well, the reason they gave was because the last 2 years they had to move inside, which I think is lame. You're having the best weather
Right.
you're gonna ever have in Minnesota
Right, this
this
year,
time right
yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So you guys, I mean, yeah, I completely get what you guys are saying. You're never gonna, even with new pieces in spring, you're never gonna watch a spring and be like, wow, this new offense is gonna be, like if we could be running a brand new offense and you wouldn't even probably get that from the spring game. So I understand that. I'm not trying to overhype this, but I do care. Um, First, I want to bring this up. I put it to Twitter. I ran a poll on X. I said, Gopher fans, do you care that there will be no spring game? We got 93 votes. So not the biggest sample size, but 60%, 62% said no, they do not care, while 38% said they do. Here's why I care. Other programs in the Big Ten, all of them are going to do a spring game, as far as I can see, except the Gophers. Like Nebraska's and Ohio State's and Michigan, like those are always packed. So I'm not saying it's going to sway a recruit to not consider us or anything to that extent, but it does matter. Like that's just showing other fan bases that they care more. Like that's the
Right.
appearance you're given anyway by just outright declining it. Um, and just like in a day and age of college football where like 80% of the teams are fighting to stay relevant, to just turn down basically a full day of Big Ten coverage on your program makes no sense. Even if it's going to be televised inside, to just outright decline having a spring game, I just think it's stupid. I don't understand why you would choose to do that. Especially when I said like I know this gets overblown and I'm not trying to pump up Nebraska fans too much, but they do like almost sell out their spring game because that's, I mean, granted there's less things to do, but it's just something that they get excited for. We get excited for it as we have a podcast on it, but you know, obviously PJ doesn't really care about giving the old content creators anything. So they did announce that there's going to be two practices that are, well, basically one that's available to the public, and then there's one that's available if you're a member of Dinkytown Athletes that you're able to go watch. Okay, here's the other thing. The spring game with the new faces, like you guys mentioned, that would be a great opportunity for just free promotion for Dinkytown Athletes, like constantly. You could be fitting that in so many different spots in between quarters. If you pass something out, hey, this is provided by Dinkytown Athletes, so be sure to support your student. Like it's a just free marketing for your NIL collective hosting the spring game, getting fans, getting them excited. There's not an easier way to get fans excited about your program than just having a spring game. There's not much you have to do. No, you don't even have to really tackle anymore. People just want to see you practice basic concepts and just get ready and know that football's coming. So I think that's another odd move. And also, it's the first season that you're really first full year now that we're pushing Dinkytown Athletes and pushing this NIL collective. And then the first thing you do is promote, like get your pay your student athletes, and the first thing you do is take away the spring game. Like you're getting less access now to athletes now that there's Dinkytown Athletes available. I just don't think that's a good look. I'm not saying people are going to not give that we're already giving, but you're asking for people to start forking up their own money now to help stay competitive or get more competitive, and you take away something that at least 40% of the fans wanted to go see. And I'm guessing now that 40% is probably the chunk that are paying to be in your Dinkytown Athletes to your NIL collective. So I just think that's a bad move. And yeah, I mean, the spring game gets people that aren't aware of current things going on at your football program. Like it gets it on their radar. And then for people that are excited about Gopher football pretty much year round like us, it's something to maintain it, more things to dive into. So I'm not saying it's the end of the world, but I just think it's a really poor move. It just less exposure, less talk around Gopher football, less. I mean, it's just an easy fan support event. So I really don't understand the logic behind it. And you know, I saw some people say, well, new personnel, just got a whole new QB room, so maybe they are trying to keep everything undercover, but when's that ever the case? I mean, you can practice basic passing concepts that you can run against any team without giving away specific plays. You know, you're going to run a slant, you're going to run fades, you're going to run routes. You know, people know that those are coming. So I don't know. I don't really buy that excuse. I guess I care more than the majority of Gopher football fans, but anything you guys want to respond back
Uh,
on?
I don't I don't disagree with what you said, Kurt. I think you're right. I think it's a good opportunity to market your team. You get, a free game on TV, get people excited about it, but I just don't know. And like you said, this day and age, you kind of need that relevancy in college football to stay afloat, honestly. Otherwise, with the trajectory where college football is going, who knows with a team that's kind of like a Minnesota, what's going to happen to you in the future. So I can understand that. But frankly, and this is none of us, but I just think that the majority or the average Gopher fan probably just doesn't care.
Uh-huh.
And I don't
The
know if
Twitter
the
post
average
showed.
I
Yeah.
don't know if the average Gopher fan would just go to the spring game, for example, or get into the NIL collective. Now, the other thing is, like you said, it's free marketing. So maybe you do catch a few people that'll donate or whatever. So I get that. That's for sure. But like you look at a Nebraska or anywhere in the big Ohio State, anywhere in the Big Ten that does do a solid spring game where they do have a lot of people in attendance, I think canceling that out for something like that, you'd have kind of more of an uproar. Whereas here, it's like no one's even really talking about it. No one's really that upset about it,
Just
And
me. Yeah.
yeah, well, I
Yeah.
mean, no, but I empathize with that. I get it, and of course, I would prefer to have a spring game, but it just
Yeah.
me, I just it's a move that doesn't really surprise. Well, it doesn't really surprise me that PJ would decide to do this. I guess that's just kind of the nature of sometimes who he is. He likes to keep things close to the vest, whatever. Um, and just with our fan base here in Minnesota, that's just, I feel like the majority of the people just won't even bat an eye. Hell, I don't even know if they would know that there was no spring game this year, to be frank. So I think that's
Sure.
just the nature of things here.
Yeah. I mean, just the last one, the last two that were available. Well, actually, I don't remember the last one I wasn't at that was available to the public. But you go. It's just a calming environment, and you sit there. Well, the last
Yeah.
two were sunshine. Drinking beers this year, I would have made sure to buy the Duck Duck beer,
Yeah. Yeah.
supporting the athletes that way. Like even it just doesn't make sense. I
Yeah.
don't get
It's
it.
a little
I
missed
don't get it.
opportunity. I get it. Yeah.
But and just to say, it's not like it's on PJ to like sit down and schedule. Like they have whole administrative staffs that can help them out with it. You know what I mean? Like it's not gonna slow down the coaches. I'd be like, oh yeah, like I know they got to give the network an advancement, to like if it's gonna be indoors or not. But it's not that hard to like predict based on the weather. And even if they were to go that far, be like, okay, it's inside again, just because the last 2 years have been crap. It's like, okay, I can live with that, but like to just not have one, nothing televised. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, moving on now, talking about relevant programs. Maybe more programs will become relevant as the College Football Playoff Committee has a structure agreement to go to 14 already, even though we have not played 12. So the next 2 years will be at least 12 teams. And then after that, we can go up to 14 teams. Um, the Big Ten and SEC basically demanded more of the profit than those other conferences in this structure, is what I'm gathering. So the Big Ten and SEC will get more of the revenue generated than those other conferences. Sounds like they basically said, agree to this or we're out creating our own thing. So those other conferences agreed to it. Um, my general thoughts, I guess, are it's going to go to 16. Why stop? I mean, if we're expanding it before we've seen 12, why even stop at 14? Go up to 16, go up to 20. Like, they're going to keep going up. It's all about money for these people that are running this right now. They do not care how it's going to negatively impact college football. Um, and frankly, I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure if 14 makes it more likely for like a team like the Gophers to get in opposed to 12, just because I just feel like it's all a farce. I feel like as far as like promoting, more teams getting exposure, I feel like it's just more. The more teams you let in, the more safety nets you're putting under these top teams that are already going to get starting out ranked number one. Oh, they got upset early. Yeah, they lost to a tough conference opponent late, but like a two-loss Georgia now. When are they ever going to miss it? When it's 14 teams deep, Like that's just not going to happen in this new format. Um, Yeah, Max, we'll start with you. Anything else you want to add on that?
Yeah, I do. I agree. I think it is a little odd that they make the change before we've even seen the new expanded format. I know they only had the 12 teams, I believe, for the next this year and the next year. So I guess it makes sense to they had to start talking about it at some point to get the ball rolling early. Um, but it is odd that we haven't even seen how it's going to work or how it's going to look, and we're already expanding it. So it is weird from that perspective. I guess one positive to try to twist on it is at least, if a team does lose early or, has a tough loss at some point, it doesn't completely wreck their season, that every game still is going to matter to them, especially if they are fighting for that last spot. And then on the flip side, too, if an undefeated Georgia's in the conference championship game, they are going to be fighting for that top spot to get the early round bye as well. So there's more opportunities to make more regular season games matter for the playoff scenarios. Um, but it is always nice. I do like the traditional where if you lose a game, your
Yeah,
national championship hopes should kind of be dashed. You need help at
yeah,
that point where it's not the way it is, but that's just the way it's going to go. So I do like that. There's more regular season games that are going to impact the playoffs at the same time. So
that's fair. Shooty?
Yeah, I think that this expansion definitely minimizes the regular season. One of the beautiful things about college football was, one upset. Michigan plays an Appalachian State, they get upset. I mean, that just kills them right there, and that
Yeah,
there's beauty in that in college football, right? It's unfortunate for a Michigan team, but every week, week in and week out, you have to be playing your best football because someone's going to take you out and ruin your season essentially. And now that goes away. Um, I guess, you do see like we saw Michigan, Ohio State this year. Michigan and Ohio State were the top teams, some of the top teams, right? And unfortunately, Ohio State goes down to a Michigan team. Um, I guess in that perspective, if you have a number one and two, I know they weren't number one and two in this scenario, but you have a number one and number two team. They beat each other during the year. You get another shot at a run for the national title. I can see how that helps a little bit, but I think that would just mean maybe instead of having like a 14 team expansion, have your conference champions and sprinkle in a couple wild cards or something like that, right? Or wild card teams. Making it 14 teams just makes it that much more, games don't really matter during the regular season. Who's
yeah,
to say this, guys? Let's say the Gophers they play do Rhode Island this year, right? Is that one of the teams? Let's say the Gophers are a top team, obviously going to win. Why not just sit your best players during that game? You know what I mean? Let's just play, some of, maybe sprinkling a couple of your top players, but try and win the game. But one loss won't really affect your season. I'm assuming that let's say you're projected to win like most, if not all, your games. These lower
yeah,
tier teams that you play, why not just kind of take it easy and if it's minimized, right? I know that
yeah,
doesn't happen really in the NFL, which is where I think college football is kind of going, NFL junior. But I mean, why not just kind of rest your players or at the end of the year if you're probably guaranteed a spot, why
yeah.
not just say, hey guys, we're going to take this week off, you
I
know?
think because they want. I think the counterpoint to that would be, I think it's because the conference champs are going to have the buys, as far as I understand. So you're going to have to win that conference championship game. But you're right. If you're in the conference championship game and there's no way you can't be in it, and there's like a game at the end that's like, I don't know, you're playing a rival, but not your biggest rival, and they're going to go to the. It's like, okay, well, I don't know. Yeah, I kind of see that point. This other thing though, if we're already getting into conferences fighting with other conferences about who deserves most of the profit sharing based on teams that they have and like drawing views. You know, I don't get how like we keep going further and further this direction. Like, when's it gonna go in conference? When is Ohio State and Michigan gonna get tired of profit sharing in the Big Ten's contract deal with Minnesota and Indiana, Northwestern and Illinois? Like, What's to stop the top 28 schools per rating? Top 10 teams out of the Big Ten, top 10 teams out of the SEC, and then maybe a couple, Florida State, Notre Dame, whatever, and just making their own Super League. I don't like it. Just to me, that's what this all just keeps pushing you towards. And we can say, oh, that won't happen. They won't break up their tradition, but tradition's already been broken the last
Right.
5 years. And everything that's being made decision wise is by TV execs and what's going to make the most money. That's what every decision has been made so far. So I just don't get like, so what's stopping you from just going full board with NFL junior, and your team is basically Florida State and LSU, Bama, all those guys in the South, and you got up here it'd be like Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, USC, Washington, like Oregon, like that. Those are your teams. I just don't get what's stopping them from eventually getting to that point. If we're already not going to equally share with other conferences when conference teams have an automatic bid into this championship playoff right now, like if we're already not sharing there, when's it going to turn inward? Like pretty soon, these schools will hire someone, because I know it's all ran by the conference right now. Pretty soon, an Ohio State is going to hire some position to look at getting their own school, their own money, like from these TV execs, is in my opinion. And they're going to team up with Michigan. Michigan's going to do the same thing. That's just what I foresee. Maybe it sounds crazy. I don't know, but with the way everything's heading, I don't see what's stopping them. Tell me
I
LSU.
don't.
Tell me LSU versus Ohio State, and then A&M, and then LSU versus Bama, and then they play Notre Dame. Like that's gonna get more ratings than Minnesota versus Ohio State on like an average year. So like, what's to stop them from just going full board with that?
You're right, and I don't think you're crazy for thinking that, Kurt. I mean, I think anything can go. The future of college football, I feel like it can go any direction.
So
I, I,
I
I really do.
you really, I mean,
Um,
it's on the schools at this point to save it. Sorry, go ahead. What were you gonna say? I was just to say the schools. It's on the schools now to save it and not get ultra greedy. But I mean, they want money too. So
yeah, there needs to be frankly, there just has to be. Schools need to be held accountable on their own account. They need to somehow maintain that tradition that the athletes are student athletes, right? And I think they owe it to their schools and they owe it to their states or communities that they are in to kind of tailor things to that over money. But the unfortunate thing is cash is king. So they're going to do whatever they can to make money. I think that you need someone that understands the logistics of college football, understands contracts, understands rules, that oversees this, like a commissioner per se, that oversees everything, knows the rules, enforces them, has a strict hand to try and maintain at least some sort of, consistency with college football because it's running rampant right now. Things are evolving so fast. Like something needs to be done in order for it not to tumble out of space. You know what I mean? Because it could just tumble into something that we don't even recognize anymore in the future.
yeah,
Um, So yeah, I just think that they need to start making rules, and I get it. Things are going to change over time. We see the NIL. I think over time things will be a little more clear with that whole thing. I understand. Athletes they want money. Go ahead and pay them money. That's fine. I understand it, but there needs to be like a clear, distinct sort of line right now. Like, all right, you are student athletes on these teams. This is the team that you signed up to play for. If you want to go to another team, maybe you have to do these steps or face these, you know, I don't want to say consequences negatively, but you got to do these things. for you to join this other team, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's just a lot. So many layers to this that need to be kind of discussed and figured out. I'm not the one who knows the answer to all of it, but I know that there's someone out there that does understand college football and the logistics that could hopefully oversee this entire operation.
Yeah. I think a commissioner of college football is definitely something that will be a thing at some point. I don't know if it'll be like voted upon. It's gonna be like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they're gonna determine it, but you think we'll ever get to the point where like, I mean, because keep going forward with this. Forget about other sports because I don't know how that's gonna be on the schools to figure it out. Because college football makes the most money, I believe, out of anything right now. So just let's focus on that. You think it's gonna get to the point where it's like, okay, college football is now NFL junior. You got about 32 teams, the top 32 teams in the thing. And if you want to play college football, what you do is you enroll after high school to a
Yep.
draft. And there's a
I
draft,
do think
and
that's going to
once
happen.
you're drafted, you are a paid employee at this school. You can go to school if you want, but I honestly don't think it's gonna matter.
Yeah.
Um, well, I
I
should
do
say
think that's going to
it's
happen.
gonna matter because there's kids gonna think they're gonna go all the way to the NFL, and it's not gonna happen. And they're gonna be sitting there mid to late 20s and be like, well, now I should probably go get a degree. Anyway, that is gonna be a thing that's gonna happen. Unfortunately, but I wonder if we're gonna get to that point where like, yeah, high school kids, yeah, I'm gonna go join the basically NFL development league at these
Yeah.
universities, and I'm
The
gonna
way
throw my
things
name
are
out and get
headed,
drafted.
yeah, the way where it's headed right now today. If you told me that's going to happen in the future, I wouldn't bat an eye because things are changing so much. I do think that that'll happen. But honestly, on the flip side of that, and Max, I want to get you in this too. I'm sorry. I just think that let's say you do want a lot of teams, right? You want all these different teams within college football, and not just these top tier teams. You almost think that you might have to have a draft to like share this revenue or something in order to pay these athletes just to make sure that teams do stay somewhat relevant. Let's say that there is like 32 teams or whatever, and let's say, oh, here's A&M, bottom of the barrel every year. Let's give them the first draft pick. Maybe they'll be
Yeah.
relevant again, and you keep it interesting like that. I I I think it's possible. I would not rule it out, honestly.
I really hope not.
It all sounds like hell to me, to be honest. Like it sounds terrible. Like that's not college football at
Yeah.
all. Like you're basically
No.
just like, hey, let's do NFL, but with kids straight out of high school. Yeah, it's gonna be terrible. You're gonna have people think
Well,
of people complain about harsh treatment that kids get now in college sports. If you get drafted and you end up not working these players, you're gonna be like, this kid sucks. Like we just wasted our pick on this kid. We're getting far. Go ahead, Max.
yeah. Well, that's what I was kind of thinking too. It's like, how is that like? How does that even work from a standpoint of what high school kids going to want to do that? Like the biggest advantage
Yeah.
they have right now is, I mean, obviously, if they're going to get paid more, that's one thing. But like, you're going to go to a school that you do not want to go to, and you're stuck there. Like, can you still
Yeah, that's a good
transfer? Do you
point.
get traded? Like, how do coaches have control over their roster when they're trying to draft these kids they know
Right.
nothing about? Because they're having to recruit everyone. You have to know everything about every single player. That's gonna become unwatchable. And that's the whole thing. I guess coming back to like NFL Junior and just the expansion and other leagues and like TV deals and all this stuff. That I'm sure there'll be more changes to come that are we're not gonna like. But the there is people are always gonna watch college football, but it still has to be a valuable product that they're putting out there. They can't really
Yeah.
swing too far, at least too fast, to the point where are people going to stop watching? No, it's still going to be the most popular thing on TV outside of the NFL and maybe NBA and college basketball's, in March. But they don't want to lose anyone either, right? I mean, they can't. That's if what's making them the most money is
Yeah.
the TV deals, then they got to keep the viewership up, and then if viewership dips because they're going to, this other league or whatever the changes are, then it's ultimately going to hurt them. So there is the risk of that I could see.
I hope they do get hurt a little bit, which makes them back off all this
right
expansion and whatnot. Financially, I'm saying that.
Right.
Yeah, like you said, the NIL stuff is so like rights driven. Like I have the right to, I earn this sponsorship so I can do this here. So like along that lines, I feel like it's gonna be tough for them to like, oh, you got drafted to this university. Yeah, that's gonna be probably pretty tough to get agreed to. But I don't know. It's just getting pretty crazy out there. So we'll see. And I think most of college football feels this way though. Like they don't want all this crazy change. I mean, I know some people liked the idea of 12 playoff teams. I didn't. We never did. I think we were all on the same page that 8 seemed right. Still kind of a lot, but then you just had the 5 conference champs and then the 3 at large bids. But you know, money's gonna do what it's gonna do. So anyway, we got one more topic here that we thought would be fun to throw at you guys. More speculative. Probably none of this will be right, but currently, Gopher football has 2 scholarship quarterbacks on the roster. That's how we went through last season. I don't think anybody was a fan of that, including the coaching staff. I gotta imagine it's a priority to find another quarterback here once the portal opens. I don't have the date, but I think it's just after spring ball that it opens. So we thought it'd be fun to throw out some suggestions or players we would maybe like to see the Gophers target. I have a couple, so I'm going to throw out one because I don't think anyone chose this guy, which I do not blame you, but hear me out. He's in conference. He had a lot of offers out of there. But Ohio State just loaded up their QB room, okay? Devin Brown was the man in waiting, and they just brought in the quarterback for now and Will Howard from Kansas State and the 5-star supposed to be stud transfer freshman from Alabama when Saban retired. So they loaded up, kind of reloaded their QB room. Devin Brown, you can pitch him that you're in conference. He's got 2 years left, so you're not really pushing Drake Lindsay, your young stud, out the door either. And Max Brosmer is more of a pocket passer overall right now anyway. You could promise Devin Brown some packages to get his legs involved in this offense and have kind of a read option game for him to come in and play now while he tries to catch up on the playbook. Devin Brown, I know it takes some NIL money, and I think he's an Ohio State guy through and through. Like, I think I could be remembering wrong, but I thought he's got like relatives that were there as well or something. But I might be wrong on that. So it takes some convincing to lure him away for sure, and a lot of money. But I think it would be worth it because you want as much skill in your quarterback room as possible. And I know it hasn't worked out from there yet, but could be a unique situation where he could use his athleticism to get early playing time right away and to stick it to Ohio State playing this year, I think, or in the next several years. But yeah, anyway, who do you guys got?
I don't think you both will probably chuckle at this because it is a little silly, but it kind of piggyback of what you were saying about, someone using their legs at first. I kind of am looking at, you remember Seth Green, how he was kind of like that package, usually goal line package or, really short yardage plays, that he just kind of take the ball, run up the gut, whatever.
Are you going to say
But
Jeff
I'm thinking of something. I am going to say Jeff Sims. Yeah.
Wow.
Now listen. I understand
he likes throwing
he didn't play that well. He does like throwing the Gophers, right? Here's the thing. I would only take him, like you were saying, before he gets to know the playbook, before he gets comfortable in the pocket and everything. He can only use his legs. We saw what he could do on his legs. He's a pretty good athlete on his legs. Throwing the football is another story. But if we do have 2 pretty solid quarterbacks that can throw the ball, why not give a little wrinkle in there with the Jeff Sims, who I don't know who else would really be interested in him, to be honest. But let's
Yeah.
just have him maybe run like a triple option, read option, whatever. Or maybe he could do like an RPO, like a quick pop little pass, that was a guaranteed kind of open player that he won't make a mistake. Just for that. Nothing like he's going to play long term and just, you know, sling it across the field all the time, but just simply running. And because the Gophers, they are solely going to have games where they run the football only. I
Yeah.
don't see that changing drastically this year. So why not have someone that can get lots of yards on their legs? It's something
Hey,
to consider. I know it's a little silly, but hey,
if you told me right now we got Jeff Sims to come in and just be a package style quarterback, just run plays like that, I would be ecstatic. That would be a great element to have in there. I just don't think he would agree to that. I assume he hasn't committed because he wants to find a spot where he can actually play quarterback, and throw the football around. But hey, if he came in and agreed to that, I would be excited about it for sure.
Yeah, I would agree. And I mean, I know, like you said, Kurt, there's gonna be more guys that go in the portal once the next window hits. But of the guys in the portal right now at quarterback, I mean, he definitely has the most experience and the most, by far the most like productivity for being a 4-year player, basically, um, or 3 years. Or was he? Yeah, because he was at Georgia Tech for 3 years, right?
Um, I
At
think
least
he's
two.
yeah. I think he's gonna be. I think he's yeah. I think he was there. I think he's played a total of 3 years. I believe.
Okay. So yeah, I mean,
I could be
yeah,
wrong.
getting a guy like that with experience and obviously the physical abilities would be great. But like you said, Kurt, he's probably going to go to probably a smaller school that he can start at or somewhere where there's availability to play. I
I
think that's going
picture
to be
like
the
a Florida Atlantic or something like that.
yeah, yeah, like exactly somewhere like that. And I think that's going to be the toughest part, with a lot of these guys they just want to find a starting role if they're
It's
that
the
talented,
toughest thing to recruit in the portal. I feel like just because
right?
they all want to see themselves playing right away. Which I get, you're a
Yeah.
quarterback, but it's tough.
So yeah, I mean the guys that are out there right now, like a lot of them that are fourth, fifth, going to be 6-year guys. It's tough to really evaluate because they just haven't played that much. I mean, the guy that really stands out the most is like a Joey Yellen from Hawaii, he's had stints at Arizona State and Pitt as a backup. Same at Hawaii. I mean, every year he's gotten playing time, but I don't think he's really started any or many games at all. But of all the other vets out there, he's the only one that consistently has played. I mean, there's guys that didn't even take a snap last year that are in the portal as a
Yeah.
6-year guy. So it's really tough right now. We will see, once more players jump in, we'll see what's available. But just speaking from a high level of like what I would want
Yeah.
is, yeah, either a guy like a Jeff Sims who's going to be kind of a package player that you can put in short yard situations and, could be a threat to throw, but a guy that can kind of be a different look with his legs. Or just a guy who's, he's been around the block, he's a veteran. It's crazy that guys can be sixth, seventh year seniors now, but
Yeah.
he's going to help some of these young guys. He's going to adjust easily to the new room and be comfortable being that backup and not try to shake things up.
That's a very more realistic options than what I have. But I do have more. But one quick thing though. I ran a poll a while ago when basically we had an exodus at the QB room that I asked, Gopher Nation if they thought we would have more than two scholarship QBs on the roster come the first game of this upcoming year, and the overwhelming majority said yes. I'm not sold on that just because we've already had. I mean, we've offered multiple portal QBs to come in and be like that maybe bridge slash competing with the freshman Drake Lindsay guy. And we had one committed. He bolted for a smaller school for more immediate playing time. So, I don't. What do you think it's a given that we have a third scholarship, or maybe I'll phrase it this way: do you think we have a third scholarship QB on the roster by the time this upcoming season starts? If you had to guess,
I think you have. I think you have to.
we didn't last year.
Right. Right. That's a good point. I think so. Yeah. I think that you do. I think that the transfer portal's there. It's hard these days because it's weird that unfortunately like the return on investment these days in terms of like a player like having to sit and watch before they play, that's kind of dwindled a little bit over the past few years, right? Players want to play today. They want to play right now rather than maybe taking a back seat and just kind of learning and growing and then maybe playing their last year or two. So it's going to be harder, but I just think that there's so many people that enter the portal just by the numbers game. You got to be able to, as a Big Ten team that needs a quarterback, and with the perception of I could potentially start if I just win these QB battles. I mean, I would like to think that someone's going to sign up for that.
But you,
Right.
Max?
Yeah, I guess as far as do I think we have one? I mean, it'd be nice, but I look at it as like, if I'm a quarterback transferring in and I have a year or two left to play and I know I'm probably not going to be looked at as the starting quarterback.
Yeah, they won't bring in a guy that they're promising playing time this year.
Right.
At this point.
So when you think of it that way, it's like, well, is it even worth a guy that's going to be a scholarship guy at that point? I mean, if we have one, I guess go for it. It's better to have the depth, but I don't know. I have no idea what Max Shikanjansky's like. I mean, could he potentially earn a scholarship? I don't know. I mean, he still exists.
By
Like,
default, maybe, but
right,
I don't know. That's not. I should say that. I have no idea what he looks like out there, but I just
right. So that's what. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird because it's like you want to get a guy that's good enough to compete, but you
well.
don't want to scare off the guys that are in your room.
So
Unfortunately, and that's what I
I
don't
wouldn't
like
even worry
about.
about that in this day and age. I'm sorry, players don't show loyalty. Well, they commit to you, but look at how many freshman quarterbacks have jumped in the portal for the Gophers already that were on scholarship.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I don't care at all about bringing in a guy that might beat out Drake Lindsay. Like that's great that he committed to us. I hope he does win the job. If he takes over as a redshirt freshman, that'd be great. But that doesn't stop me from wanting to bring in other talented quarterbacks like Lincoln Kyholes, another Ohio State guy. Unfortunately, had the tough bowl game play against Missouri, but 6'2", 200 pounds, athletic kid, 4-star recruit out of South Dakota. We offered him initially out of high school. He did visit Wisconsin, so he's not against the Midwest. Obviously, he went to Ohio State. So, but listen to this profile. I don't have it up. Okay, well, I looked at his profile coming out of high school, and basically it was strong arm, not the strongest, but strong enough to put some zip on throws, athletic enough to extend plays, can run, but looks to more extend the passing play and throw downfield than he does to use his legs. That to me sounds a lot like the profile of Ethan Kaliak-Manis,
Right.
which PJ and them loved. I'm just saying, if you can convince him to compete for a job here, and if the Gophers think they can develop him, something this current coaching staff hasn't really necessarily proven they can do yet, so that'll be a tough sales pitch. That would again take NIL money. He's another option I have as for a QB to target, because again, they brought in they got a commit from this Aaron Nolan guy who was like a 5-star lefty dude. And then they also brought in the 5-star freshman transfer, which would be the same class as this Lincoln Kineholes guy from Alabama. So there's a lot of competition. He's not in the portal. I'm just assuming that at some point he will be here in the next month or at the end of this upcoming season. But anyway, another name to keep an eye on. And then I have one extremely random one, and I did this purely off body size. Drake Lindsay's a very tall, strong-armed pocket passer. Right now in the portal, you have one, Emmett Moorhead. He is a redshirt junior. He's got 2 years left. He was at Boston College, had offers from Kentucky, Pitt, West Virginia. Nah, I don't have the other one. But he had Power 5 offers is what I'm saying to you. But he's 6'5", 235, strong pocket presence, pocket passing quarterback was his little bio coming out of high school, a 3-star recruit. To me, that sounds exactly like what they want out of Drake Lindsay to be. So why not bring in someone that's basically, physically anyway, a clone of him? Probably didn't have the stats that Lindsey did. Lindsey set records in Arkansas. I'm assuming this guy probably didn't. He's from Virginia. Maybe I didn't dig that deep into him, but why not bring in a basically a body double? So then you got two with at least for one for depth going forward as far as what you want to do. Two pocket passing quarterbacks. That's what I got for this exercise I assigned to us.
I mean, I wouldn't hate that. I mean, Emmett's probably got some of the most experience of the quarterbacks in the
Yeah.
portal as far as starts go. He had a handful a
Yeah.
couple years ago, but yeah, I mean, he could teach the kid something. I don't know.
If I had to guess, our next quarterback that we bring in through the portal probably isn't even in the portal yet. That would be my
Yeah,
guess.
I mean,
Right.
I hope not. Just no offense to
Yeah.
the kids in it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Spencer kind of sold me on the Jeff Sims. If he agreed to that package,
I
It would
mean,
be
it,
fun.
it'd have to be just doing exactly
Right.
that. I mean, who knows? Maybe he gets better throwing the ball. I don't know. But I'm thinking more of a Seth Green sort of package,
I gotcha.
sort of thing.
I mean, Jeff Sims the type of athlete though. If you got him on your team, you probably just find ways to get him the ball anyway, even if he's not
Right.
the quarterback for you. So,
Two
yeah, that'd be
quarterbacks at the
exciting.
same time.
Yeah,
throw
there
to
you
him.
go.
Right.
Kansas does it. If Kansas
Yeah.
can do it, why not us? Did that Jack Bean from Kansas, by the way, did he ever enter in the portal? Did he stay in there? And
He's
Tim
not.
and Daniels are both staying at Kansas.
I think so. As of right now.
Talk about an all-time quality backup that you love. That the Gophers need a Jack Bean.
Yeah.
Just stays there, inevitably goes in for a few games each year. Play doesn't drop off much. Yeah, he might not have quite the playmaking ability of Daniels, but yeah, what a stud. Anyway, that's all we got for you this time on Sky U Pod. Thanks for tuning in. Again, check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Leave a review, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Feel free to tweet at us, email us. Our email is at skyupod@gmail.com. So any topics you want to hear, let us know. We'll discuss them. We're always looking for new things to discuss. And as always, we'll see you next time.